We haven't eaten in 5 days. We are living under huge injustice. We are living in famine.
A mass starvation crisis is now gripping Gaza. Gaza's health ministry now reports 900,000 children are going hungry, 70,000 already showing signs of malnutrition. The UN says more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces while seeking aid just since late May. Humanitarian organizations, doctors, and journalists are now sounding the alarm as they watch their colleagues inside Gaza simply waste away. CNN's Jeremy Diamond joins us now from Tel Aviv. Jeremy, tell us what we're learning and our CNN teams in and around Israel are learning about the situation on the ground there.
Well, Jim, the sights and sounds of starvation are everywhere in Gaza at the moment, whether it is people clamoring in line at the very few soup kitchens that are actually operational inside of Gaza right now, just trying to fill a pot of lentil soup to feed their families, for many of them the only meal that they will eat that day, whether it is people who are searching for scraps of food, who aren't eating for days at a time, or the cries of babies in hospitals who are malnourished, who have lost pounds that they cannot lose at this point. We are seeing evidence of the rampant starvation that is currently gripping Gaza. And, you know, every single involved party at this point, besides Israel, makes very clear that Israel is responsible for this humanitarian crisis that is now unfolding. We saw this week as 28 Western nations, many of them traditional allies of Israel, said that the blame lies at Israel's feet. Hundreds of humanitarian aid organizations have also said that Israeli restrictions on the entry of aid, a lack of coordination for safe distribution routes to pick up those truckloads of aids inside of Gaza and distribute them, also saying that that is Israel's fault. And what we are seeing, of course, is that it is the most vulnerable in Gaza who are the first to suffer from all of this. There's one boy who our team filmed in Gaza today. He is 3 years old. His name is Mohammed, but he weighs just 13 pounds, Jim. He was already suffering from a degenerative muscle issue, but with proper physical therapy and proper nutrition, he was able to be relatively healthy and active. And now he is really just a skeleton, is the only way to put it. 54 people have died from starvation just this week. There are only really small flickers of hope at this point. There's a clear effort by the Israeli government, it seems, to increase the coordination with the United Nations and other groups to pick up that aid that's been sitting in Gaza due to a lack of proper safe routes. They also are now saying that they're going to resume those airdrops over Gaza, which really represent a drop in the ocean, but it's something at least. But the reality is that there's no end in sight right now, especially as we are seeing that these ceasefire talks are very much faltering. That really would have been the lifeline that so many in Gaza have been waiting for.
Listen, we saw U.S. aid drops from the air months ago, and they did not, I mean, there were deaths from those involved, and that certainly did not solve the shortage problem. Jeremy Diamond, thanks so much. So where is the U.S. in all this? CNN has learned that the Trump administration does not have a high-level official focused on Gaza humanitarian aid. Omar Shakir, Israel and Palestine Director at Human Rights Watch, joins our panel. Omar, when I speak to Israeli officials, and I'm not alone in this, when I bring up the food shortages there, they place the blame on Hamas. They say that this is Hamas that is stealing and weaponizing the aid. USAID has done its own analysis and found no evidence of massive Hamas theft of Gaza aid. What is the truth based on Human Rights Watch's experience there? Who's responsible for the shortage?
The truth is very simple. It's the Israeli government. And the greatest proof of that is when there was a ceasefire in place in early 2025. So when there was a political decision by the Israeli government to allow aid in, 600 trucks a day were entering Gaza. They were reaching 400 locations throughout the Gaza Strip. All the indications of malnutrition, of starvation were improving. The situation got much better. But then the Israeli government in early March took the decision to impose a total blockade on Gaza. No food, no aid, no nothing. Now, it in late May resumed allowing limited quantities of aid, largely through this new Gaza Humanitarian Foundation mechanism. But that mechanism has turned out to be lethal, with over, as you just noted, as Jeremy noted, over 1,000 Palestinians gunned down. The reality that Jeremy describes is one that we should all take a moment to reflect on. Imagine your children, cramping because their stomachs are empty and there's nothing you can do. The Israeli government could make a decision today to solve that crisis, but instead they sit and watch and children die as a result.
One change from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, as explained to me, is a great reduction in the number of aid distribution sites, down to 4 from many dozens that are operated previously. And that means you have, bottlenecks, right? You have many hundreds, thousands of people focused on just 4 sites there. The fact is, Alyssa Farah, the U.S. is part of this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation operation. And of course, the U.S. has an enormous influence over the Israeli government, the Israeli military. Does the U.S. partially own this problem there in Gaza?
Well, listen, I can't speak to the Israeli position here, but America's stated position is that we want a ceasefire. And Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, has been working around the clock to try to reach one. As your guest noted, when there was a ceasefire in place, aid and food were flowing into Gaza. And just a couple of days ago, they announced that the latest ceasefire negotiations fell apart because Hamas declined to agree to them. So that is something the U.S. is working around the clock to try to enforce. You do need a cooperator that's willing to come to the table with the Israelis, but it continues to be, to the best of my knowledge, this administration's priority to get a ceasefire.
It seems that President Trump's patience is running out because he said of Hamas just before leaving for his trip to Scotland, he said, it's got to the point where you're going to have to finish the job. That's him speaking to the Israelis, saying, it seems, opening the door to further military operations there. Is it your sense, Molly Ball, the president has run out of patience with Hamas on this?
It certainly sounds that way. I mean, to Alyssa's point, Steve Witkoff decided not to attend the talks this week because he said that Hamas wanted to keep fighting and was not a willing participant. So it is the administration's position that it's Hamas that has walked away from the table here and is not willing to do what it takes to protect their own people who are suffering so terribly. That's
on the negotiations, but the fact is that Israel, Mo, has the power to allow more aid in, and we know that because they have prior, to Jeremy's point. They have allowed, and there were days when you had many dozens of trucks coming in, and the fact is, for an enclave with more than 2 million people, a dozen or so trucks a day just isn't doing the job. So I just wonder, we used to talk about how President Biden doesn't apply enough pressure on Israel. Some would criticize him. Can President Trump face the same criticism here?
Oh, and he should receive the same criticism here. Look, you can be pro-Palestine and anti-Hamas. I'm one of those people. I'm pro-Palestine, anti-Hamas. You can be pro-Israel, but against this. And we all should be that way, pro-Israel and against this. The fact of the matter is, look, Israel runs one of the most sophisticated missile defense systems in the world. They can shoot down 90% of incoming or greater of missiles that are coming at them. But they can't figure out how to get trucks of food to starving children that have nothing to do with the hostages. We all deserve for the hostages to be released. But those children deserve to eat, and Israel can do it.
Brian, there have been times when President Trump made quite clear he wants the war to end there. He does. And I wonder, is he also running out of patience with Israel?
Yeah, listen, I think he has shown he's been able to push against Bibi Netanyahu in the past, at least in the second term. But I think Alyssa's right. You have to have a willing participant in this peace process, and Hamas is not a willing participant. So he can have as many conversations he wants with Benjamin Netanyahu, but unless the third party, the one who's launching missiles, who's causing the missile defense system to be triggered, unless they have a desire to stop it, this is going to continue.
Yeah. There's still an obligation to feed, one could argue.
Yes,
Shakir,
regardless.
Thanks so much to you. We will be right back.